Greetings, learner. Welcome back to the deep dive in the love and light, as always.
Indeed. Love and light to everyone joining us.
So today, we're taking a really close look at Law of One, Session 78. It's just packed with detail.
Absolutely. We'll be going through it pretty much question by question using the LL research transcript.
Our mission really is to unpack all the insights here on creation, consciousness, all that good stuff, making it clear and engaging for you.
Yeah, this session goes from, ritual details right up to galactic evolution and deep dives into archetypes. It's quite the journey.
Okay, let's jump straight in. Question 78.1. The questioner mentions a problem with a ritual, something that meant they had to repeat it.
Right. And Ray confirms, yeah, there was a misstep, caused a momentary lapse of concentration. They said this was not well. Simple as that.
And 78.2 immediately asks, well, what was the misstep?
It was surprisingly simple, just a misfooting, physically tripping, basically.
Huh. Seems minor.
Well, yes, but it really highlights something important, doesn't it? Even tiny physical things can ripple out energetically when you're doing focused work. Attention is key.
That makes sense. Everything's connected. So, question 78.3 asks if this little slip-up caused any harm to the instrument.
Ross says very little. Apparently, the instrument felt a kind of cold presence and reacted, made a sound.
Ah, the cold signature again. That often comes up.
Exactly. It shows how sensitive the instrument is and also, pretty resilient.
Good to know. Okay, 78.4 is just a general check-in. How's the instrument doing overall?
Physically, pretty much the same as before, Ross says. Maybe a slight dip in vital energy, but the basic complex distortions haven't changed much.
So a stable baseline, but maybe a bit drained from the work, which seems consistent.
Yeah, that seems to be the pattern.
All right, 78.5. This one's important. It goes into the instrument's kidney problem, a long-running issue. And Ra gives a really detailed answer here.
Oh, absolutely fascinating. Ross states the physical kidneys are, well, much damaged, but, and this is the key part, the time-space version, the sort of energetic blueprint, it's without flaw.
Wow. So the physical manifestation is damaged, but the energetic template is perfect.
Precisely. And Ra mentions a past issue where psychic attack was hindering spiritual healing, but that hurdle was overcome.
Okay.
But then there's this twist. When physical remedies were introduced, the spiritual healing actually weakened because, the focus shifted. The instrument stopped sort of affirming the spiritual healing's power.
So focusing on the physical inadvertently undermined the spiritual work. That's complex.
It really is. It shows the power of belief, of affirmation. Law points out this created a distortion and stresses the importance of the instrument really understanding this dynamic.
It's that mind-body connection, again, playing out in a very specific way.
And Ra acknowledges the free will aspect, being careful about giving advice, but offers it out of care for the instrument.
Which leads right into 78.6. What experience actually healed the time-space kidney, the perfect blueprint one?
The answer is so succinct. Healing of self by self, with the catalyst of the spiritual healer whom you call Pachita.
Self by self. So external healers are catalysts, but the real work is internal.
Exactly. The power is ultimately within. Catalysts just help unlock it.
Okay. Shifting gears a bit, question 78.7 asks how the support group can most effectively help the instrument using thought forms, sending energy.
Ra notes the group is already sending love, light, strength, which is great. The suggestion is to refine it, to consciously visualize sending that energy right into the instrument's energy web.
Like aiming the energy more precisely.
Yeah, focusing the intent. And interestingly, Ra adds that the most potent sending is unique to each person in the group.
So it's not one size fits all. It's about authentic, individual connection. Powerful stuff.
Very personal, yeah.
Right. Now we zoom way out. Cosmic scale. Question 78.8. The questioner proposes this idea. Evolution in the Milky Way moves from the center outwards, and that polarity, the first distortion extending, came later.
And Ra just says, you are correct. Simple confirmation.
Wow. So unity first, then the complexity of duality unfolds later in the galactic timeline.
Seems that way. A gradual process.
Okay, 78.9 digs deeper. Did the galactic core itself form with a third distortion, which is light? Is that the start of the Milky Way, essentially?
Ra gives a nuanced answer here. In the ultimate sense, it's all the one infinite creator, right? That's a baseline.
Always.
But yes, in terms of the first visible manifestation in this galaxy, the undistorted seed form, Ra says that was indeed the third distortion, limitless light.
So light was the first thing we could theoretically point to as the beginning of our galaxy.
Exactly. And Ra introduces the term logos here, like a galactic level creative intelligence or principle.
Got it. So 78.20 asks about these early logoi at the center. What do they know? Were they starting from scratch, trying to create experience for the creator?
Apparently not completely from scratch. Ross says they had the harvest of the preceding octave. They knew the results of the last cycle of creation, even if the details were incomprehensible, like our future octave is to us.
Okay, so they had some foundational knowledge. What tools did they use?
Three key things. An awareness of how efficient mind, body, and spirit are for creating experience. Ra calls these the significator. And then these two concepts, the matrix and the potentiator. These were used to balance catalyst within each complex.
Matrix and potentiator, that sounds fundamental. Can you get more on that? That's question 78.11.
Yes, and Ra breaks it down beautifully. For the mind, the matrix is consciousness itself thinks of the program. The magician archetype, steady awareness. The potentiator is the unconscious, vast, untapped potential, almost like the high priestess.
Okay, consciousness and the unconscious. Makes sense. What about the body?
For the body, the matrix is balanced working, constant inherent activity. The potentiator is wisdom, the ability to judge and choose useful actions.
Activity and the wisdom to guide it. Got it. And spirit.
Spirit is fascinating. The matrix is the night of the soul, primeval darkness, immovable, pure receptivity. The potentiator is lightning, sudden, brilliant illumination. Rai even links this directly to the original concept behind the lightning-struck tower archetype.
Wow. Darkness and sudden light. Stillness and potential. That's a powerful duality.
It really paints a picture of these core dynamics within us, doesn't it? Stillness, potential, activity, judgment, darkness, elimination.
Definitely. And 78.12 just circles back quickly to clarify the significator.
Right. Ra simply says the original significators were just mind, body, and spirit, the basic building blocks before they get activated by matrix and potentiator.
Okay, foundational elements. Then 78.13 summarizes. So this galaxy used an archetypical mind, inherited from the last octave, applying free will to evolve experience.
And Ray's response is clear. This is quite correct. Confirms that continuity and the role of free will right from the start.
Now, polarity again. Question 78.14. If the idea of service to self-father's polarity came later, was any kind of polarity carried over from the previous octave?
Ray says yes, but a more fundamental kind. Polarity existed as the mover and the moved. Just basic action and reaction, the inherent dynamism of existence, not the conscious moral polarity we know.
So a simpler form of duality predated the ethical choice. Interesting.
A progression of complexity, it seems.
What about the 7 densities? Question 78.15. Was that structure carried over?
Ray believes so. To the limits of their knowledge, the structure of the octave, the 7 densities, is without time. It's fundamental, eternal, part of every creation, infinitely.
Wow, so the 7 densities are a cosmic constant.
Seems to be the case, yes.
Question 78.16 suggests the central suns planned the density progression, but didn't initially plan for the service to self-father's split.
And Ray confirms this is correct. Reinforces that idea of polarity emerging later in the developmental plan.
Okay, questions 78.17 and 18 ask why densities have specific qualities like 4th density being about love. Can we even understand that?
Ra says it is possible. The explanation is elegant, really. Each density has a specific vibratory range, and its qualities are inherent to that vibration. It's like how our eyes perceive different frequencies of light as different colors. The quality is the vibration.
So love is the frequency of 4th density, just like blue is the frequency of blue light.
That's a great analogy, yes.
Now, back to how service to self polarity actually started. Question 78.19 asks for the history. If it wasn't there initially, how did it emerge?
This is deep. Ra explains logoi always offered free will to sublogoi. The turning point came when one logos really contemplated the significator's mind, body, spirit becoming complex.
Becoming more than just basic concepts.
Exactly. For them to be able to truly be themselves, and importantly, to be what they are not, they needed the creator's full free will. This realization kicked off a long refinement process by later logoi. The key was the significator evolving into a complex capable of making choices.
So the development of complexity within mind, body, spirit enabled free will, which then allowed for the choice of polarity.
That seems to be the connection Ra is drawing. Free will and complexity are intertwined.
Question 78.2 then suggests our own logos was quite far down this path, specifically designing archetypes to help accelerate polarization.
Ra says that's generally correct, but adds the perspective that each logos' design is just the creator experiencing itself in a unique way. Making the significator complex introduce this tension creator, potentially acting against creator within one being, and that dynamic tension, fueled by free will, is the ongoing process of creation.
So our focus on archetypes is one specific flavor of the creator exploring free will.
A beautiful way to put it, yes.
Okay, 78.21 and 22 revisit Raz's earlier powerful statement. The choice, in third density, is the axis upon which the creation turns. What does that really mean?
Rai clarifies it's a statement about the current nature of creation. Creation isn't static, the logos learns and grows, exists outside our time, the experience accumulates.
Yeah. So the importance of third density choice isn't an eternal absolute, but reflects where the focus of cosmic learning is right now.
Exactly. It's the current cutting edge of this creation's evolution, based on all the experience gathered so far.
Right. Question 78.23 asks about how positive and negative social memory complexes interact after third density. Is it like how individual polarities interact higher up?
Ra gives a very direct no.
Okay, so collective polarity works differently than individual polarity in higher densities.
Seems so.
Yeah.
Which leads to 78.24. What's the point, then, of separating into distinct positive and negative groups these social memory complexes? Why not mix?
Yeah, what's the value?
Ra explains the whole purpose of polarity is developing the potential to do work, learning, evolving. And this work is done much more efficiently and intensely when individuals voluntarily choose a path and seek its lessons, especially in third and fourth density.
So choosing a side sharpens the focus and accelerates learning.
Yes. Ra says even though fifth density actions might look similar, regardless of path, the wisdom gained is much richer because of the voluntary polarized seeking in the lower densities.
Makes sense. Deeper learning through focused choice. So 78.25 asks, are these paths truly independent in fourth and fifth density? Do they need each other at all?
Ra confirms yes, fourth and fifth densities are independent. Interaction happens mainly in third density to influence the choice.
But what about later?
But in sixth density unity, they must integrate. Rano notes this is straightforward for positive polarity, but negative polarity has to be consciously relinquished.
A big hurdle for the service to self path eventually.
A fundamental one, it seems.
Okay, the next few questions, 78.26 to 28, are the questioner kind of summarizing their understanding of this long build-up to archetypes and asking if they're on the right track.
And Ra is very gentle here. Your queries are thoughtful. There are no mistakes. They emphasize non-judgment and suggest the questioner reflect further and ask more specific questions later.
Just encouraging the learning process. Very raw.
Very much so.
Question 78.29 takes us right back to basics. First density. How do wind and fire teach earth and water?
That's quite poetic, actually. Ra says the chaos, air, and fire illuminates and shapes the formless earth and water.
Chaos bringing form.
Yes, the active elements carve out landscapes, define oceans and rivers, making the planet viable for life to even begin. It's the fundamental dance of creation.
Beautiful. Okay, 78.3 asks about the link between the 7 mind archetypes and the 7 densities. Is there a direct mapping?
Ross says the relationship is tangential, not a direct one-to-one match. But progressing through the archetypes does share some characteristics with moving through the densities. You can see parallels, but don't force a rigid grid onto it.
Informative, but not identical. Got it. Same question, basically, for the energy centers or chakras in 78.31. How do they relate to archetypes?
And same answer, really. Helpful to see connections, but don't insist on perfect alignment. Ra reminds us the archetypes are resources of the mind complex specifically.
Keep them distinct concepts, even if related. What about planets? 78.32 asks about archetypes and planets, like in astrology.
Ray admits this is tricky. Says a relationship does exist, but it's hard to put into words, and acknowledges many adepts have tried.
So it's complex?
Yeah. Ray's advice, focus on understanding the archetypes as pure concepts first. Use planetary stuff for meditation maybe, but don't let it cloud the core meaning of the archetype itself.
Okay, prioritize the archetype's essence. Now, 78.33 is the questioner trying to find that clear starting point, suggesting the magician archetype might be the first one, carried over from the last octave.
Right, and Ray uses this to make a really important point. Distinguish the archetype itself from its functions or associations, like planets. Focus on how the archetypes relate purely to each other.
Okay, methodological advice. And what about the magician specifically?
Ra confirms it is foundational. It's the matrix of the mind consciousness. It's the basic awareness, the mystery, the revelation that even makes third density experience possible. The self-aware being is full of this magic potential. Mind is the first complex to really develop spiritually.
Wow. So the magician is conscious awareness itself, the starting point. Then 78.34 asks, is the High Priestess, intuition, the second archetype?
This is correct, says Ra. It represents that initial duality Ra mentioned earlier, matrix and potentiator. The high priestess is poetically the unconscious, the potentiator of the mind. It's the deep wellspring that makes all mental experience possible.
The potential behind the conscious awareness. Got it. Then 78.35 and 36 ask about the third, the Empress. Is that linked to disciplined meditation?
Ra broadens it out. The third archetype is the catalyst of the mind. Disciplined meditation is one efficient use of catalyst, but the archetype is bigger than that.
Okay, so what is the Empress symbolizing? Ra says the name is a bit confusing.
Yeah, Rhea explains the intention behind the name is about the unconscious, feminine part of the mind being used or ennobled by the conscious, masculine part. It's about actively engaging with what arises from the unconscious.
So consciousness working with the catalyst from the unconscious.
Okay?
And the fourth, the Emperor, question 78.37, links it to experiencing others. Green ray, maybe.
Rhea calls this the experience of the mind. The Emperor title implies that experience comes about after catalyst has been processed by that potentiated consciousness, the conscious mind enriched by the unconscious.
Result of the process.
Exactly. And it's right here Ray notes the instrument is getting uncomfortable, suggesting the energy is getting intense. They ask for just one more query.
Right, the session is running long. Which leads to the final question, 78.38. Given the length, how can they make things more comfortable for the instrument and improve the contact?
Ray confirms more energy was transferred than usual, maybe pushing the limits given some physical discomfort the instrument had, specifically in the back.
Okay, so it was a bit taxing.
Yeah. Alignments were good, though. Ross suggests gentle manipulation of the back before sessions and applying warmth to the instrument's right side. This warmth suggestion is linked to an attempted psychic attack. Swaddling is also recommended.
Practical advice for managing the energy and protecting the instrument. Very grounded.
Definitely. Shows the care involved.
So wrapping up our deep dive into session 78, wow, we've covered so much ground. From ritual nuances to the birth of polarity, the structure of creation, those incredible matrix potentiator concepts, and the deep meaning of the first few archetypes.
It's truly profound stuff. It really
Right.
reinforces that sense of interconnectedness, doesn't it? That feeling of, well, I am you and you are me. Namaste.
Namaste. And maybe, learner, a final thought for you to ponder. Consider that interplay Ra described, the matrix and the potentiator within your own mind, your body, your spirit. How does that conscious awareness interact with your unconscious depths? How does activity balance with wisdom? How does inner darkness meet illumination?
Yeah, reflecting on those core dynamics, it could really deepen how you experience reality day to day.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration. We hope it sparks some insights for you.
Go forth, then, rejoicing in the love and light of the one infinite Creator, Adonai.